Dr. Elena Rodriguez rubbed her tired eyes and stared at the computer screen again. She had been working for 16 hours straight at the Deep Space Monitoring Array in New Mexico. The desert outside was quiet and dark, but inside the control room, machines hummed and beeped as they listened to signals from across the galaxy. Something was wrong with the data. For 3 days now, a strange signal had been cutting through the normal background noise of space. Elena had seen thousands of signals before: pulsars, quasars, radio waves from distant stars. This was different. This signal had a pattern, like someone was trying to send a message. She picked up her coffee cup and walked over to Marcus Kane's workstation. Marcus was the best codebreaker on the team, a thin man with messy brown hair who could solve puzzles that made other people give up. "Marcus, look at this," Elena said, pointing to the wave pattern on her tablet. "This signal keeps repeating, every 6 hours and 43 minutes. See how it changes here and here? That's not natural." Marcus took off his glasses and cleaned them slowly. He always did this when he was thinking hard. "You're right. Natural signals don't do that. This looks like someone built it, like they wanted it to be noticed." Lisa Park rolled her chair over from the next computer station. Lisa was young, maybe 25, but she knew more about alien communication theory than most professors. Her job was to figure out how aliens might try to talk to humans. "Where is it coming from?" Lisa asked, pulling up the tracking data on her screen. Elena checked her notes. Kepler 442 system, about 1 on 200 light-years away. The signal is strong, much stronger than it should be for that distance. Someone is using a lot of power to send this message. The 3 scientists worked together for the next 2 weeks. They barely slept, living on coffee and energy bars as they tried to crack the code. The signal was complex with layers of meaning hidden inside other layers. It used math concepts that proved whoever sent it was very smart. Marcus was the first to break through. "I think I found the key," he said one morning, his voice shaking with excitement. "They're using prime numbers to mark the beginning of each section. And look here, they're showing us pictures using binary code." The first image was simple, a circle with lines coming out of it. The sun. Then came a planet with 2 moons. Then creatures that looked like tall, thin people with 4 arms and large eyes. "They're telling us about themselves," Lisa whispered. "This is first contact." But as they decoded more of the message, the excitement turned to horror. The aliens called themselves the Valari. They were peaceful people who studied science and art. They had never fought wars because there was nothing on their world that wanted to hurt them. Now something terrible was happening to them. The message showed pictures of big dark ships coming from space, ships that looked like giant insects with metal claws. These ships belonged to something called the Croaxan Empire. The Croaxans were killing the Valari and taking over their world. "Help us," the message said when they finally translated the words. "We are dying. Our cities burn. Our children hide in caves while the sky rains fire. We have sent this message to every star in the galaxy. Please, if anyone receives this, help us. We do not have much time." Elena felt sick to her stomach. She had spent her whole life listening to space, hoping to find signs of alien life. Now that she had found it, those aliens were being murdered. She called Admiral Jack Harrison at the United Earth Space Command. Harrison was a tough old soldier who had spent 40 years in space. He did not believe in aliens or fairy tales. "Admiral, we have a situation," Elena said over the secure phone line. "We've received what appears to be a distress call from an alien species." There was a long pause. "Dr. Rodriguez, are you sure this isn't some kind of hoax? College students with too much time on their hands?" "No, sir. The signal came from 1/200 light-years away. The math is too advanced and the physics data embedded in it checks out perfectly. This is real." Elena sent all the data to Space Command headquarters. For 3 days, teams of experts studied every detail. They checked and double-checked the signal's origin point. They analyzed the language patterns and the scientific information included in the message. Finally, Admiral Harrison called Elena back. "We believe you're right. This appears to be genuine. But Dr. Rodriguez, what exactly are you expecting us to do about it?" That system is 200 light years away. Even with our fastest ships, it would take decades to get there. We have faster than light travel now, Elena reminded him. The new drives could get a fleet there in 3 weeks if they push the engines hard. That's not the point. We're talking about getting involved in an alien war. We don't know anything about these Croaxans. What if they're the good guys and the Valari are lying to us? Elena had thought about this too. Sir, the message includes star charts, scientific data, and detailed information about their biology. If the Valari were lying, they would have to be incredibly good at it. And there's something else. She paused, trying to find the right words. We've been monitoring the Kepler 442 system more closely since we got the message. The electromagnetic signatures match what you'd expect from orbital bombardment. Entire continents are going dark as we watch. If we don't act soon, there won't be anyone left to save. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the message, about the fear in those alien words. Somewhere in space, people were dying while Earth sat safely far away. The next morning, she got a call that changed everything. Captain Ryan Mitchell of the UES Defiant had been ordered to report for an emergency briefing at Space Command. The government was taking the alien distress call seriously. Elena drove to the base and was surprised to find herself invited to the meeting. In a room full of generals and politicians, she explained once more what the Valari had told them. The question before us, said President Helen Carter, is whether humanity should risk everything to help complete strangers. We've never even met these aliens, and now we're being asked to fight a war for them. General Patricia Wells, head of Earth's military forces, spoke up. The risk is enormous. We have no idea what we're getting into. The Croaxans might have weapons. We can't imagine. We could be sending our people to die for nothing. But Elena saw something else in the room. She saw the faces of people who had heard a cry for help and couldn't ignore it. Humans had always been like this. They rushed toward danger when someone needed saving. Admiral Harrison stood up slowly. Ma'am, Earth has never backed down from a fight when innocent people were in danger. I don't think we should start now. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Humanity was about to go to war with aliens they had never seen, in a place so far away that most people couldn't imagine the distance. President Carter looked around the room one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for Operation Firestorm. We're going to answer that distress call. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. In all her years of searching for alien life, she had never imagined it would lead to this. Earth was about to show the galaxy what humans did when someone asked for help. They responded with fire. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Within hours of President Carter's announcement, every television channel and news website was talking about the alien distress call. Some people were scared. Others were excited. Most were confused about what it all meant. But in military bases around the world, confusion was not an option. Colonel Jake Sullivan received his orders at 600 hours while he was drinking coffee in his office at Fort Carson. He had 30 minutes to pack and report to Space Command headquarters in Colorado Springs. Jake was a soldier's soldier, a man who had fought in 3 different wars and never lost a battle. His job was to put together the best fighting force humanity had ever created. The mission was simple: save an alien race from extinction. The execution would be anything but simple. Sir, said Lieutenant Amy Foster as she handed Jake a thick folder of documents. These are the personnel files for every elite soldier in the Earth Defense Forces. The Pentagon wants you to pick the best of the best. Jake opened the folder and started reading. Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Marine Force Reconnaissance, Air Force Special Operations. Names and faces of men and women who had proven themselves in combat. He had 2 days to choose his team and start training them for a type of warfare no human had ever experienced. At the same time, Major Sam Torres was leading her unit through combat drills at the orbital training facility above Earth. Sam commanded the 1st Orbital Assault Division, soldiers who specialized in fighting in zero gravity. Her troops were tough, but they had only ever fought other humans. Now they needed to prepare for enemies they knew nothing about. Listen up, Sam told her soldiers as they floated in the training module. Everything we know about warfare just changed. We're going to fight aliens who might be stronger than us, faster than us, or have weapons we can't imagine. But we have one advantage they don't know about yet. Sergeant Billy Thompson, a big man from Texas who could bench press 300 pounds in Earth gravity, raised his hand. "What's that, ma'am?" "We're from Earth," Sam said with a grin. "We're the only species in the galaxy that evolved by fighting everything, on our planet including each other. These aliens are about to learn what that means." While the soldiers trained, Chief Engineer Nancy Webb was working 18-hour days at the orbital shipyards. Nancy was responsible for turning Earth's small space fleet into a proper war machine. The ships were fast and well built, but they were designed for exploration and defense, not for attacking alien empires. "We need bigger guns," Nancy told her team of engineers as they studied the blueprints for the UES Fury. "The plasma cannons we have now are good for destroying asteroids, but we need weapons that can punch through alien armor." Her assistant, Tony Rodriguez, pulled up the specifications for the new kinetic bombardment systems. "What about these?" "They fire metal slugs at near light speed. Simple physics. Mass times velocity equals a very bad day for whoever's on the receiving end." Nancy nodded. "Mount 6 of those on each ship, and I want every available missile tube loaded with nuclear warheads. If we're going to war, we're going to war properly." Down on Earth, Dr. Kevin Adams was trying to understand the aliens. Kevin was a xenobiologist, which meant he studied life forms from other planets. Until now, that had been mostly theoretical work. Now he had real alien data to study, and what he was learning worried him. "The Valeri are herbivores," Kevin explained to Admiral Harrison during a briefing. "They eat plants, not meat. Their entire evolution was peaceful. They've never had predators, never fought wars, never even competed for resources. Their planet gave them everything they needed." Admiral Harrison frowned. "What about these Croaxons?" Kevin pulled up images that the Valeri had sent in their message. The Croaxons looked like giant bugs with metal armor. They had sharp claws and multiple eyes. These are definitely predators. They evolved to hunt and kill. Their empire probably spreads by conquering weaker species. "So we're dealing with space bugs who like to eat peaceful aliens," Harrison said. "Wonderful." Lieutenant Commander Rachel Green was working on the intelligence side of the operation. Rachel's job was to figure out how the Croaxons fought and what their weaknesses might be. She had been studying the debris patterns in the Kepler 442 system using long-range telescopes. "They're methodical," Rachel reported to Colonel Sullivan. "They don't just attack randomly. They hit the orbital defenses first, then the military bases, then the population centers. They want to break resistance before they move in for the kill." Rachel had also noticed something else. Their ships are big and heavily armored, but they move in predictable formations. They're used to fighting enemies who can't fight back effectively. "I don't think they know how to handle real resistance." While Earth's military prepared for war, President Carter was dealing with the political side of the crisis. Half the world's leaders thought the mission was too dangerous. The other half thought it was humanity's moral duty to help. "We could lose everything," said the Prime Minister of England during a video conference. "If these Croaxons are as powerful as they seem, they might decide to attack Earth next. And if we do nothing," President Carter replied, "we'll have to live with the knowledge that we let an entire species die when we could have helped them. Is that the kind of galaxy we want to live in?" The debate continued for hours, but in the and the decision was already made. Earth's military was mobilizing whether the politicians liked it or not. Admiral Harrison had been given his orders, and he was going to follow them. The biggest challenge was time. The Valeri had sent a second message, weaker than the first. Their situation was getting worse every day. Entire continents were going silent as the Croaxon bombardment continued. Intelligence estimates suggested the Valeri had maybe 3 weeks before their species was completely wiped out. "We need to leave in 5 days," Admiral Harrison told his staff. "I know it's not enough time, but it's all we have. The faster-than-light drives can get us there in 3 weeks if we push them past their safety limits." Captain Ryan Mitchell was given command of the lead assault ship, the UES Defiant. Ryan was a veteran pilot who had flown everything from fighter jets to orbital transports. Now he was being asked to lead humanity's first interstellar war mission. "Sir," Ryan said to Admiral Harrison, "my crew is ready. We've run every simulation we can think of, but we're still going in blind. We don't know what we'll find when we get there." "I know," Harrison replied, "but that's never stopped humans before. We've always been good at figuring things out as we go." As the fleet prepared to depart, one final message arrived from the Volari. This one was barely detectable, transmitted with the last of their orbital communication satellites. The message was short and desperate. "To the people of Earth, thank you for hearing our call. We do not know if you can reach us in time, but knowing that someone cares gives us hope. The Croaxans have begun landing troops on our world. We are hiding in the deep caves where our ancestors once lived. Please hurry. We cannot hold out much longer." Dr. Elena Rodriguez read the message aloud to the assembled fleet commanders. When she finished, the room was silent for a long moment. Colonel Sullivan was the first to speak. "Well, that settles it. We're not just going to war. We're going to rescue." Admiral Harrison stood up and looked at the faces around the table. These were the people who would lead humanity into its first alien war. They were scared, but they were determined. They had heard a cry for help from across the galaxy, and they were going to answer it. "Ladies and gentlemen," Harrison said, "in 2 days we launch Operation Firestorm. The Croaxans are about to learn what happens when you mess with Earth's neighbors. Let's go save some aliens." The room erupted in cheers and applause. Earth was ready for war. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant and stared at the tactical display. What he saw made his stomach turn. The system was full of alien ships. Massive dark vessels shaped like insects moved between the planets. Near the Volari homeworld, enormous dreadnoughts hung in space like metal vultures, raining fire down on the surface below. Smaller Croaxan ships patrolled in formations, hunting for any Volari craft that might try to escape. "My God," whispered Captain Mitchell as he counted the enemy ships on his screen. "There must be 200 of them." Lieutenant Commander Rachel Green was already analyzing the enemy formations from her position at the intelligence station. "Sir, the Croaxans have complete control of the system. They've destroyed the Volari orbital platforms and are systematically bombarding population centers." Admiral Harrison felt the weight of command pressing down on him. Earth's fleet consisted of 12 ships against an alien armada. By any reasonable military calculation, they should retreat immediately. But reason had nothing to do with why they were here. "All ships, this is Admiral Harrison," he announced over the fleet communication channel. "We came here to save the Volari, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Battle stations." The Croaxans noticed the human ships almost immediately. A group of enemy vessels broke away from the main fleet and moved to investigate these newcomers. The aliens had probably never seen human technology before, and they approached cautiously. That caution lasted exactly 30 seconds. Captain Mitchell launched the first attack. His squadron of fighter craft, led by Commander Pete Jackson, accelerated toward the nearest Croaxan patrol group at maximum speed. The human fighters were small and fast, designed for hit-and-run tactics rather than direct confrontation. The Croaxan ships opened fire with energy weapons that painted space with green light, but the alien gunners had never faced human pilots before. Commander Jackson's fighters twisted and spun through the enemy fire like leaves in a hurricane, their movements too chaotic for the Croaxan targeting systems to predict. "This is Jackson," the fighter commander reported over the radio. "These bugs shoot pretty, but they can't hit anything that moves like it has a brain." The human fighters struck back with missiles and plasma cannons. The Croaxan ships had heavy armor, but their shields were designed to stop the simple weapons of peaceful species. Human military technology punched through their defenses like paper. 3 Croaxan ships exploded in balls of superheated gas. The surviving aliens retreated in confusion, broadcasting urgent messages to their fleet commanders. They had never encountered enemies who fought with such aggressive tactics. Admiral Harrison smiled grimly as he watched the tactical display. "Colonel Sullivan, launch the Marines. Let's see how these bugs like close combat." Major Sam Torres led the 1st Orbital Assault Division in a daring boarding action against a Croaxan command ship. The human Marines used specialized pods to punch through the enemy vessel's hull. Once inside, they moved through the alien corridors, like the predators their planet had trained them to be. The Croaxans inside the ship were not prepared for hand-to-hand combat. They were tall, insect-like creatures with natural armor, but they moved slowly and awkwardly in the confines of their own ship. The human Marines, trained in zero-gravity combat and armed with weapons designed for close quarters, tore through the alien defenders. "These things are big and scary-looking," reported Sergeant Thompson over the radio. "But they fight like they've never seen real combat before. They keep trying to form up in neat little groups instead of adapting to the situation." Major Torres reached the ship's command center and found something interesting. The Croaxan officers were cowering behind their control stations. These aliens were used to easy victories against helpless enemies. They had no idea how to handle opponents who fought back effectively. "Download everything," Torres ordered her tech specialist. "Ship layouts, communication codes, fleet positions. We need to know how these bugs think." While the Marines captured, Intelligence Chief Engineer Nancy Webb was discovering something important about Croaxan technology. The alien ships were powerful but inefficient. They used brute force instead of clever engineering. "Admiral," Nancy reported from the engine room of the Defiant, "these aliens build their stuff like they have unlimited resources. Big engines, thick armor, powerful weapons, but no finesse. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable because we had to make every part count." The initial skirmishes revealed both human advantages and the scale of the challenge ahead. The Croaxans had superior numbers and heavier weapons, but they were used to fighting enemies who surrendered quickly. Human tactics confused and frustrated them. Admiral Harrison realized that conventional warfare would not save the Valeri. The human fleet could win individual battles, but the aliens could simply overwhelm them with numbers. He needed a different approach. "Colonel Sullivan," Harrison called to his ground forces commander, "I have a job for you. We're not going to try to outfight their entire fleet, we're going to cut off their head." The captured intelligence from the boarding action had revealed the location of the Croaxan command structure. The alien fleet was being coordinated from a massive station in the outer system, a fortress that served as both supply depot and headquarters. The plan was audacious and dangerous. Colonel Sullivan would take a small force of elite soldiers and infiltrate the enemy stronghold. Their mission was to capture or destroy the Croaxan command center, throwing the entire alien fleet into chaos. Meanwhile, the main human fleet would establish defensive positions around the Valeri homeworld. They would use every trick they could think of to hold off the alien attackers until Sullivan's team completed their mission. Dr. Kevin Adams had been studying the Croaxan prisoners taken during the boarding action. What he discovered was both encouraging and disturbing. "Admiral, these aliens are highly social creatures like ants or bees. They follow orders without question, but they panic if their command structure is disrupted." "And the bad news?" Harrison asked. "They're also highly aggressive when cornered. If we threaten their command center, they might decide to destroy the Valeri homeworld just to deny us a victory." Harrison nodded grimly. It was a risk they would have to take. Time was running out for the Valeri, and half measures would not save them. As the human fleet prepared for the next phase of the battle, Captain Mitchell received a weak transmission from the planet's surface. The message was in broken English, translated by Valeri scientists who had been studying human communication signals. "Human friends," the message said. "We see your ships in sky. Our people cry with joy. We hide in deep caves but Croaxan ground. Troops search for us, please hurry. Our children are afraid, but they sing songs about brave humans who came from stars to help us." Mitchell felt a lump in his throat as he listened to the message. These aliens were not just statistics or strategic objectives. They were real people with families and children, trying to survive while monsters hunted them. "Admiral," Mitchell said, "request permission to take a squadron down to the surface. If the Croaxans have ground troops hunting Valeri civilians, we need to even those odds." Harrison considered the request. Splitting their forces was dangerous, but leaving innocents to die was not an option. "Permission granted. Take your best pilots and give those bug soldiers a taste of human close air support." As Captain Mitchell's fighters dove toward the planet's surface, Colonel Sullivan's infiltration team prepared for their dangerous mission to the enemy command station. The fate of an entire species hung in the balance, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened Earth's neighbors. The Croaxans had conquered dozens of worlds by overwhelming peaceful species with superior firepower. But they had never faced enemies who treated warfare as an art form, who had spent thousands of years perfecting the science of organized violence. They were about to learn why humans were called Deathworlders. Colonel Sullivan's infiltration team moved through the shadows of the Croaxan command station like ghosts. The enemy fortress was massive, built from dark metal that absorbed light. It looked like something designed to frighten enemies into surrender, rather than serve as an efficient military base. "These aliens really like to show off," whispered Sergeant Mike Chen as he planted explosive charges on a communication array. "This whole place is built to look scary instead of being practical." Sullivan nodded as he studied the layout on his tactical display. The Croaxan station was full of unnecessary decorations and intimidating architecture. It was the fortress of a species that had never faced real opposition. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Captain Mitchell's fighters were hunting Croaxan ground troops. The alien soldiers moved in perfect formations across the Valari landscape, searching caves and underground shelters for survivors. They had advanced weapons and heavy armor, but they fought like they were on parade instead of in combat. "This is Mitchell to all pilots," the captain announced over the radio. "These bug soldiers are sitting ducks. They don't even try to take cover when we attack." Lieutenant Sarah Williams dove her fighter toward a group of Croaxan troops who were advancing on a Valari refugee camp. The aliens saw her coming but continued marching in their neat formation. They fired their weapons at her aircraft but made no attempt to scatter or find cover. Sarah's plasma cannons tore through the enemy formation like a hot knife through butter. The Croaxans had powerful weapons, but they had no idea how to use them against opponents who refused to stand still and fight fairly. Back in space, Admiral Harrison was coordinating the defense of the Valari homeworld. The Croaxan fleet was beginning to respond to the human attacks, but their response was slow and predictable. The alien commanders kept trying to fight the same way they always had, with overwhelming force and intimidation. "They're not adapting," reported Lieutenant Commander Green from her intelligence station. "Every time we change tactics, it takes them hours to respond. It's like they've never had to think creatively before." Dr. Kevin Adams had been studying the behavior patterns of the captured Croaxans. What he discovered explained everything about how the aliens fought. "Admiral," Kevin announced over the communication system, "I figured out why these aliens are so rigid in their tactics. They're a hive mind species. Not completely, but close. Individual Croaxans can think for themselves, but they're programmed to follow orders without question. When their command structure is disrupted, they don't know what to do." Admiral Harrison felt a surge of hope. "Are you saying that if we knock out their leadership, the whole fleet will collapse?" "Exactly. But there's a problem. If they realize they're losing, they might decide to destroy everything rather than retreat. These aliens don't understand the concept of honorable defeat." Harrison understood the implication. The Croaxans might decide to blow up the Valari homeworld just to deny humanity a victory. The rescue mission had become a race against time. On the command station, Colonel Sullivan had reached the central control room. The chamber was enormous, filled with alien technology that looked more like art than military equipment. Croaxan officers stood at control stations that resembled giant flowers made of metal and crystal. "Remember," Sullivan told his team through their helmet radios, "we need prisoners, not corpses. We have to understand how their command system works before we can shut it down safely." The assault began with flashbang grenades that blinded and confused the alien officers. Human soldiers poured into the command center, moving with the fluid coordination of predators who had trained together for months. The Croaxans were completely unprepared for the attack. They had weapons, but they had never been trained for close combat. Their elegant control room became a chaos of smoke, shouting, and flashing lights as the humans took control of the station. Major Torres captured the Croaxan fleet commander, a massive alien with golden armor and multiple eyes. The creature was clearly important based on how the other aliens deferred to it, but it seemed more confused than frightened by its capture. "It keeps trying to give me orders," Torres reported to Sullivan. I think it doesn't understand that. We're not part of its command structure. Dr. Adams's voice crackled over the radio from the human fleet. That's exactly right. Croaxan society is based on strict hierarchy. The commander probably thinks you're just confused subordinates who need to be reminded of your place. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, something remarkable was happening. The Volari had begun emerging from their hiding places to help the human soldiers. The peaceful aliens had never fought before, but seeing humans risk their lives to save them had inspired them to fight back. A group of Valari scientists had modified their mining equipment into weapons. Others used their knowledge of the planet's geography to guide human forces to Croaxan positions. The aliens were still afraid, but they were no longer helpless. Human friends, a Valari civilian said to Captain Mitchell when his fighter landed to refuel. We want to help fight. Our children ask us why we hide when brave humans die for us. We cannot be cowards when you show such courage. Mitchell looked at the tall, thin alien with its 4 arms and large eyes. The Volari looked fragile compared to humans, but there was determination in its voice that reminded the captain of his own people. Stay behind cover and help us spot enemy positions, Mitchell told the alien. Your job is to survive this war and rebuild your world. Our job is to make sure you get that chance. Back on the command station, Colonel Sullivan had figured out how the Croaxan fleet was controlled. The alien command system was surprisingly simple. All orders came from the central station and were transmitted to individual ships. If the station stopped sending signals, the fleet would be paralyzed. But we can't just shut it down, Sullivan explained to Admiral Harrison over the radio. If the fleet loses contact suddenly, some of the ship commanders might panic and start firing at everything in sight, including the planet. Then we take control gradually, Harrison replied. Can your people operate their equipment? Sullivan looked at the alien control systems. They were complex but logical, designed for a species that valued order above creativity. Give us an hour and we'll have these bugs dancing to our tune. The final phase of the battle was unlike anything in military history. Human soldiers at the Croaxan command station began sending false orders to the alien fleet. Ship by ship, they directed the Croaxan vessels away from the Volari homeworld and toward the outer system. The alien ship commanders followed the orders without question, just as they had been programmed to do. They assumed the commands were coming from their own leadership. It never occurred to them that their enemies might have captured their command center and turned their own obedience against them. Within 6 hours, the entire Croaxan fleet had been scattered across the system. When the alien commanders finally realized what had happened, they were isolated and confused. Some ships tried to return to the homeworld, but human forces were waiting for them. The final battle was swift and decisive. Croaxan ships that had terrorized peaceful species for centuries found themselves facing opponents who had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. Human tactics, adaptability, and sheer determination overwhelmed the aliens' superior numbers and technology. The surviving Croaxan ships retreated to the edge of the system and sent a single message before jumping to faster-than-light speed. The translation was simple. We withdraw. This species is too dangerous to fight. As the alien fleet disappeared into space, Admiral Harrison received a transmission from the Volari surface. Thousands of voices spoke together in broken English, singing a song of gratitude to the humans who had saved them from extinction. Thank you, brave humans from the death world called Earth. We will remember this day forever. We will tell our children's children about the warriors who came from the stars when we needed them most. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, monitoring the communications from her station back on Earth, smiled as she listened to the alien voices. Humanity had answered the distress call with fire and fury, just as she had known they would. The galaxy had learned something important that day. Earth was home to a species that considered a stranger's cry for help to be a declaration of war against anyone who threatened them. The universe had become a safer place for those who could not protect themselves. And somewhere in the darkness, between the stars, other peaceful species began transmitting their own coordinates to Earth, knowing that if trouble came, the Deathworlders would answer their call.